So I thought I would do my own top 10 for the February 2018 format. If you're observant in any shape or form, you probably would have noticed that basically everyone under the sun has decided to do top 10 X deck for X format for, yeah, this happens every format and stuff, and usually within like about a day, there's like 20 different top 10s already released of different decks that people haven't tested, haven't tried out, probably haven't even asked anyone about, but that's okay. It's okay to theorize, and it's okay to put your opinions across and maybe speculate. But then again, I feel like maybe that's not how it comes across. But the point is that I thought that perhaps with this video, it'll help maybe the player base get a better idea of some of the more important points of February 2018 format, namely the most important Jeffs for this format. So this video is going to look at all the Jeffs for top 10 in February 2018 format, all the viable Jeffs, what the best Jeffs are, and hopefully you'll be able to decide for yourself and come up with your favorite Jeff for this format. Now at number 10 we have Buster Jeff. Jeff as a Buster form is incredibly powerful. If you look at the sword that he's holding, he looks really good, he looks fantastic, he looks like he knows what he's doing. Buster Jeff is probably one of the better kind of rogue Jeffs, but I think that it definitely has some potential this format. I just think that Buster Jeff is one of the best Jeffs this format. I can't really think of a situation in which Buster Jeff would be ideal, but I think that in general Buster Jeff has a good Jeff matchup. And for number 9 we have Final Jeff. This is the final Jeff and probably one of the last bosses that you'll find in any sort of Jeff, and I think that Final Jeff is a fitting end to sort of the last format. We did see a little bit of Final Jeff a few years ago, but I think now is probably the time for Final Jeff to come back into the fray and definitely have a good shot this format. At number 8 we have Gateway of the Jeff. Now Gateway is a card that people have been anticipating the return of for many years now, and I think that with the addition of Jeff, it's probably going to be one of the better archetypes this format. I think that Gateway is, while it's unsearchable, when you couple it with its Jeff form, you might find that it's actually really good. And I think that if you manage to open Gateway of the Jeff, then you are basically opening up your possibilities to all kinds of Jeff. There are so many different ways to Jeff, and I think that Gateway is probably one of the best ways to do it. However, I think that one of the disadvantages of Gateway of the Jeff is that you are kind of required to open Gateway of the Jeff. But generally, in a Jeff deck, that's not too hard. As long as you're looking at your opponent and asking him for his name, then you will probably find that Gateway of the Jeff doesn't have any problems whatsoever this format. I personally am a big fan of the Gateway, especially with the Jeff. And at number 7 we have Dark Contract with the Jeff. So for anyone who's into the lore and stuff, you can obviously tell that the Dark Contract is kind of like the more evil side of the Jeff. There is more of an appreciation to this kind of card if you're into like the lore. I don't think it's particularly that strong this format, especially under Master Rule 4. Jeff did take a bit of a hit, but I think that Jeff is still going strong, and Dark Contract is an amazing card. It's very consistent. It helps you get to basically any Jeff in your Jeff, so I would recommend Dark Contract with the Jeff. There's a lot of good Jeff monsters you can make with Dark Contract. You're able to search out those Jeffs, and I think that this card provides all the consistency you need to Jeff. And at number 6 we have Max Jeff. Now this card did take a hit on the most recent ban list. Well, at least the counterpart card, I think it's called Max C or something, but I think that Max Jeff is probably one of the better versions of the C archetype. We were considering going with Max J, but that kind of didn't really work because in the end, like, you are going to be playing Jeff, and in a Jeff deck, I think Max Jeff is probably the way you want to go. You want the absolute maximum number of Jeffs in your deck. Making unbreakable Jeffs is very important, and I think that playing Max Jeff in your deck is a way to stop all the Jeffs from coming out onto the field. And at number 5 we have Jeff Wrath. Again, a card heavily kind of settled in the lore. Jeff Wrath is a card that, well, is extremely consistent and is searchable in basically anything. Jeff Wrath is able to be used in quite a lot of Jeff decks, specifically Pendulum Jeffs, but I would probably never really run it outside of a Pendulum Jeff. Jeff Wrath is obviously really powerful, but with Master Rule 4, the monster effect became completely useless, and you're kind of relied to just Jeff now with the Jeff. And at number 4 we have Master Jeff. Now Master Jeff, I think that again is another card that's very sort of settled in the lore, and Master Jeff, as you can see from the card art, is being summoned to defeat the other Jeffs or Brads. Now I think that Master Jeff is a card that is extremely powerful. There's not a lot of ways to kind of deal with Jeff. When you summon Jeff, there is sort of a way that your opponent kind of has to deal with it now. If your opponent doesn't have an out to the Jeff, then they kind of just lose there and then. It's really a card that demands an out right now. It's one of the more stronger Jeffs in recent years. In a vacuum, just as a single standalone card, Jeff is extremely powerful. I think this card kind of fell off the radar recently, but I think that's more to do with the Jeffs around Master Jeff being hit. Not that Master Jeff is particularly bad or anything. I think Master Jeff is broken. Master Jeff is really good, but it's more to do with the other Jeffs that got hit on the ban list. So with everything else being hit on the ban list, however, I think Master Jeff could see some play again. That's kind of the thing, is like when everything else gets hit, kind of the ones from before return to the format and kind of come back into the fray, and Master Jeff is a good example of that. And at number 3 we have United We Jeff. This is a card where if you have multiple Jeffs, then you can combine all of the Jeffs and unite them together and they will Jeff. So United We Jeff is a card that I think is going to be quite popular this format. There are ways to get to Jeff, and I think that depending on your deck, especially if it's Jeff, then you will be like sort of having no issue whatsoever in getting to Jeff. There is so many Jeffs in the game that you probably should try and find a way to fit this card into your deck, because it is important that you unite your Jeffs together and make sure that you can overcome the format and the different decks that you're going to be playing in a different type of format, especially this kind of format where we haven't really seen this sort of openness in a while. We probably will still be seeing a lot of Jeff decks, but I think that you might see some other kinds of Jeffs as well. So keeping those Jeffs united is very important. At number 2 we have Swing of Jeffries. Now you're probably wondering why this card is here, because it's just like, for the most part, it's kind of terrible. But if we really kind of just focus on the name and pay attention to it, Swing of Jeffries, that's just amazing. It's probably one of the better Jeffs perhaps ever printed. Swing of Jeffries, like that's just amazing. That is unbelievable just how well that fits into the Jeff archetype. It just sits nicely there in the Jeff lore. I can't really think of anything else that would be better for Jeff. Before we get to number 1, I would like to quickly shout out my latest Patreon, Zhao Yikang. Thank you so much. It means a lot. I really appreciate you guys helping out the channel, and I'm just trying to do what YouTubing is supposed to be, and it's really just making sure that we get these informative videos like this out there. Really just making sure that people understand the meta, the format, analysis. Just really in-depth discussions like this I think is very important and tantamount to good content, and I just really appreciate and I'm so thankful that you guys are willing to help out with this. Thank you so much. And at number 1 we have A Jeff Lives. Now people will probably be wondering, I don't understand how this is going to work, but the thing is, depending on the format, this card can be really broken. I know with the return of Jeff, people were kind of scared of playing A Jeff Lives, but honestly, just because there's Jeff in the format, that doesn't mean A Jeff Lives is a bad card. It just means that you're going to have to play around Jeff a little more. You're going to have to be careful with your Jeff, and just use your Jeff to sort of the best advantage. Just be smart with your Jeff, okay? I think that A Jeff Lives is just such a powerful card. It probably does more as a single card than any other Jeff in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that Jeff is definitely going to be up there this format. It's just phenomenal as a card. It does have a heavy cost to it. It does suffer to some different other Jeffs, but again, like I said, just because Jeff, that doesn't mean you can't really run Jeff. Alright, so this has been my top 10 Jeff for 2018. I know that this is perhaps going to be a bit of a controversial list. There were some Jeffs you weren't expecting to Jeff, but I think that these are probably the best Jeff for 2018. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. Let me know down below what you think the best Jeff of this format is, and I'll be sure to check out your suggestions. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time. Depending on the format, it is important that... Depending on the format, Jeff could be viable, but again, it kind of depends on... What the fuck am I talking about? What is there to say? What am I saying? Oh my god. And at number 10 we have Buster Jeff. Buster Jeff. Oh fuck. Dark contract with the Jeff is a it's a dark contract with the Jeff. Look at his face. I can't deal with this. What am I doing? Big shout out to my Patreons. It means a lot that you would support informative, really good content, like informative content. Oh my god. Oh, why the fuck do people watch me? Unsubscribe, please. And with the format shifting to Jeff, it's very likely that Jeff will be more... I've said Jeff so many times. Oh my god. Has it been 10 minutes yet? Please tell me it's been 10 minutes.